In 1946, Julian and Ray moved to San Francisco, where eventually Julian held a job at the San Francisco Chronicle. Julian had his degree in lithography from Tuskegee University, so he eventually opened a print shop that he called Success Printing. The couple had a large book collection and found black books hard to find. Ray had a deep passion for books about African Americans, and they often lent books to friends, so Julian decided to open a bookstore in the back of his print shop. They realized that for the black community to be progressive, it must have its own bookstore as a source of information about itself, so they wanted to do something for their people. Eventually, the bookstore was renamed Marcus Books in commemoration of Marcus Garvey. The bookstore was located in the Western Addition neighborhood of San Francisco. By the post-World War II era, the Western Addition became a population base for San Francisco's African American community, a consequence of opportune housing supply due to the internment of Japanese Americans. Also known as the Fillmore District, it was a thriving hub for African American culture in the West Coast of the United States. The area was often called Harlem of the West, and it was renowned for its jazz clubs. The couple was deeply rooted in community activism and would often allow the space as a meeting space for activists before and after protests and rallies of the civil rights movement. In 1976, Marcus Books opened a second store in Oakland. Over the years, the neighborhoods experienced large-scale redevelopment. The store needed to relocate multiple times. In total, the store had moved 7 times in San Francisco and twice in Oakland. Their last move in San Francisco was in 1981. They moved to 1712 Fillmore Street, where they occupied a historic Victorian building for over 3 decades. At this location, Marcus Books owners continued the culture and the jazz legacy while serving their community. Facing financial difficulties and the growth of competitors such as Barnes & Nobles, Borders, and Amazon, it brought a 60% drop in sales between 2004 and 2010 for Marcus Books. There was a public outcry over its prospective closure in the Bay Area, and the GoFundMe was not successful. And despite all efforts of public officials like London Breed, San Francisco's mayor, who was quoted saying, "I wish I could come up with the money to buy it myself, but unfortunately, it's a capitalist society and it doesn't work like that." Breed had often visited the bookstore as a child. Dr. Ray, also a scholar, had a doctorate of literature from the University of California, Berkeley, and she was also the chair of the Black Studies Department at San Francisco State University. In 2000, Julian passed away, and Ray continued to operate the store alone. Eventually, the Johnson family became the owners of the store. They're currently located at 3900 Martin Luther King Jr. Way, where in 2013 the building had a beautiful mural painted on it. These murals were painted in collaboration with the owners of Marcus Books, along with community members, as a graffiti abatement project. The murals show prominent features from Black history in between books and people reading. They all have titles of important books by Black authors like Hurston, Garvey, Macmillan, and Morrison, honoring Black historic books and making it hard to miss. They are still providing the community with education through Black books, while still being the go-to place to find out about African American history, life, food, and culture, with just enough space to still provide authors and book lovers a place to meet. Many notable African American figures have patronized the store or hosted readings, including Malcolm X, Toni Morrison, Maya Angelou, Oprah Winfrey, Terry McMillan, Muhammad Ali, Michael Eric Dyson, Shaka Khan, Queen Latifah, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and many others. Thank you for your contributions to civil rights and providing us a bookstore that we can rely on to keep African American culture rich for generations to come. Congrats to 60 years, Marcus Books.